How do you know if the financials of your practice are healthy? Well, here's a hint. There's more to it than just having more in your checking account at the end of the month compared to the beginning of the month. At the same time, you don't want to be buried alive in your financials. There needs to be a balance so you can keep tabs on them without getting buried alive. And my guest today is a partner in a primary care practice, and she can also consults to private practices. She's got a good idea of what the basics of healthy financials are, and she's going to help us get started. I'm Carl White, principal at Mark Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. It's usually what they want anyway, but care is better when there are providers who own the practice, because then every decision that's got to get made, whether it's providing care, patient care, or otherwise, are made by those included and those who are providing the care. That way we can rest assured that patient care is always top of mind, which is what a primary practice is supposed to be all about. My guest today, my returning guest today, is Katie Nunn. Katie provides training and coaching for healthcare leaders and their organizations on process improvement, financial optimization, and cultural transformation. Leveraging extensive experience with financial and operational turnarounds, she's a valuable advisor for an organization experiencing rapid expansion or change. With over 20 years' experience in healthcare leadership, her broad areas of expertise include practice assessments, process improvement, financial management, IT implementations, telemedicine, strategic planning, onboarding providers, and cultural transformation. Katie, thanks for coming back to Practice Care.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, here we are in the middle of summer that we both acknowledge is going way too quickly.
Right.
But that is what it is. So we're going to get into the basics of good financials. This could be a whole series of episodes. We're going to try to boil it down. But first, for those who haven't listened to an episode of yours previously, just fill in some of the gaps on your bio. Help us get to know you a bit better.
Sure. So I have spent my entire career working in private medical practices in
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. And 6 years ago, I decided to start a practice management consulting company.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my very first clients wound up becoming my business partner, Dr. Umar Shah. And we now also own a family medicine practice together. So we
Mm-hmm.
both own the family medicine practice and our consulting company together.
Mm-hmm.
And we have learned that they work very synergistically.
You would think.
We do help other practices with the headache that is running the business side of medicine. And then we're also doing it for ourselves with our own private medical practice. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's tremendously helpful for me as a consultant because I'm not just like telling people this is what you should do. It's like this is what we do
Yeah.
in real life, and or
Yeah.
this is what we have done in the past, or those kinds of things. So, and we learn new things that we do at Vital Care and we'll take them to practices. And sometimes we learn new things from practices and we bring them back to Vital Care.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real win-win. I think that there's like no such thing as competition in healthcare really, because there's more patients than we know
Yeah.
what to do with. So I am always very transparent and love to share and just want all practices to be successful, right? And
Yeah.
you do be doing good things for patients. So
Yeah.
that's what we're all about.
I've always liked your experience because if there's one thing that's sort of this blanket, I don't know, criticism of consulting, and it's not always true, but it's true more often than it should be. And it's that the advice you just gave me, consultant X, is not practical for us. We can't really implement it. It just seems like you'd be able to cut through all that while we have to eat our own cooking because I'm on your side too. You know, I
Yeah,
wear I wear the same shoes you do.
absolutely. And well, and even when I was a, medical practice administrator and I wasn't in consulting yet, I've always been a hands-on, servant leader, if you will. And
Hmm.
I mean, I've done every position in a medical practice besides be the provider.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
worked at the front desk, I've done the billing, I've worked as a medical assistant. I mean, I
Hmm.
started as a medical assistant when I first got out of college because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
kind of wound up into management. And
Hmm.
I think it's important to know what those jobs are like
Yeah.
because it's easy to think that they're easy and they're not. They're all
Yeah.
tough jobs,
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Plus how they work together.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense. So, okay, let's get at the basics of good financials. That's the topic. So I'm curious before we're going to, the question after this one is, all right, so what are some of the core financials? What should they look like? But I'm curious, what you find when you start a new consulting client or when you joined Vital Care, like the state of the financials, kind of just paint the picture for us, just so we can, I'm
Yeah.
curious.
So, the things that we always look for are, are you doing regular bank reconciliations?
Hmm.
Says that's how you can make sure that your financials are,
Hmm.
accurate and matching your bank,
Yeah.
statements. I've come into practices before where they were 11 months behind on bank reconciliations.
Jesus.
And they're like, we want you to calculate our bonuses at the end of the year. And I'm like, I don't even know how much money there is. We got to
Yeah.
get this all caught up first. So,
Yeah.
that's, that's the like basic blocking and tackling right there, is making sure that you're doing your monthly bank reconciliations. The second thing that
I'm
we
curious, how common is it that when you start, that you find that's not happening?
Um, it's often more common than not that it's can be behind,
Got it.
a
Okay.
month or two, a couple months behind.
Yeah. I mean, it is
It's
a
just
mind-numbingly boring like in my personal life, I haven't reconciled my bank account in over a decade
right.
because it's all online and instantly updated.
Yes.
And then you have to
And
go
you don't
do
have
this.
like a
Yes.
million transactions going through
Yeah.
your account,
Yeah.
right? A
Yeah.
medical practice has so many transactions because of all the payments from the payers coming in. And
Yeah.
sometimes they come in at, a dollar, and sometimes they're, $200,000. So it's
Yeah.
like you can have everything in between. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
Um, but it's important.
Hmm.
Um, and then the chart of accounts, I think, is the next thing that we always
Okay.
look for. A lot of times medical practices, you can tell that they kind of just got started off with like the basic QuickBooks chart of accounts, and there's no like
Hmm.
numbers on their accounts. It's just like an alphabetical order. And so
Really?
it's like, yeah.
Wow. No numbers.
So, what we always recommend is using like an MGMA chart of accounts, which have been like, well thought out, and they're
Hmm.
arranged for a medical practice. You can get them from MGMA. I believe that they're on their website for free even.
Could be
Or you might have to be a
mgma.com.
member.
Yeah, maybe Medical Group Managers Association. Yeah. Good
Yes.
resource.
But that, can help you make sure that your financials are um thoughtful. It's
Hmm.
not just like A for accounting and then B for benefits and C for Costco or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you kind
Yeah.
of have them arranged at like employees and overhead, and in ways that are grouped together to make sense.
Yeah.
And once you have that, it's such a big difference
Hmm.
in when you're analyzing your financials. The
Hmm.
other thing that that does is allows you to benchmark against
Hmm.
MGMA if you want to.
Hmm.
So that if you're looking at, comparing your practice to another practice, you can say, well, this is how much we spend in this category, and that is MGMA standard, or that's above average, or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
The last thing that having those clean financials can do is, like, if you're ever going to sell your practice,
Mm.
it's very important,
Hmm.
right? To have them
Hmm.
be good, presentable financials, and you want them to look like they are professional.
It's
And
true.
yep,
If these are ugly, good Lord, what
yes.
else? What else am I, what else is
Yeah, what
ugly?
else is messed up in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then so those are the some of the first things that we look at to just
Hmm.
like, like kind of give us a clue on, what the state of affairs are. And then
Hmm.
the balance sheet, like those are the two, the profit and loss statement. And then, that's where you're going to have your chart of accounts for your, you know, income and expense accounts. And then your balance sheet is going to have like any loans and any kind of debt that you have, all your assets. And that can often be very old and out of date. And that's something that you often have to work with your accountant on,
Hmm.
annually to keep it clean.
Hmm.
But again, another thing that's nice to have clean, because if you're going to sell your practice, or even if you're going to apply for credit,
Yeah.
you have to turn in your financials.
Hmm.
You want to have those things look presentable and look professional.
Yeah.
So those are the two main, financial statements that you want to be clean and ready to go
Yeah.
at any given time.
Yeah. 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 Do you do much with statement of cash flows? That's like the third kind of, not so
Yeah,
much.
not so much in a medical practice.
Hmm.
It's more rare to see a statement of cash flows.
Hmm.
And so if you have it, great. But if you don't, I don't really sweat it because it's not all that common to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so when you start with a consulting client, or I'm curious, when you were sort of started with the practice that you're a partner in, you just kind of gave us a sense of what good looks like.
Mhm.
How far from what good looks like do you typically find when you start up?
So yeah, I mean,
And you talk about reconciliations being behind, like
yeah,
right.
like I think that that's like probably as bad as I've seen. Like I've started with a big practice. I mean, we're talking, you know, like 16 physicians and multiple nurse practitioners. Like this is a big practice
Hmm.
that we started working at, and their P&L statement would be like 10 pages long just because the chart of accounts was so
No.
messy. And I couldn't really give you any information out of that because I it was just a mess. And
Hmm.
so what we had to do in that case was kind of wait till January. I think we started working then with them in like October.
Hmm.
So luckily it wasn't too long. And so in January we loaded a new chart of accounts
Uh,
and started over because starting in the middle of the year with a new chart of accounts is
hmm.
difficult at best.
Hmm.
So it's almost like has to be a January start
Yeah.
or whatever your fiscal year start date is.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have to be diligent about making sure the right things get into the right accounts every time. Because
Hmm.
that's the other thing is if you're just like willy-nilly putting, sometimes you put your medical supplies, maybe your McKesson bill, sometimes it goes into medical supplies, but sometimes it goes into office supplies, then
Problem.
you're not accurate,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that having somebody that's a good controller or a good bookkeeper
Hmm.
makes a huge difference,
Hmm.
because those kinds of things can get lost and you never really capture it or get it fixed
Yeah.
unless you're really drilling down and looking at it.
Yeah. And listeners, the term chart of accounts is definitely an accounting term. It's a piece of accounting jargon, but just step back from the jargon. This is it's how you keep track of the money coming in and the money going out. And hopefully there's more money at the end of the month. And if you're unhappy with the amount of profit that you're keeping, the only reasonable way to figure out where am I spending more than I should, or where can we cut, or what's going on in there in a way that you can actually make decisions on is if things are organized. And that's what a chart of accounts is. It's not the accountant driving the practice. It's meant to be the other way around. It really
Yeah, it's
is,
just your list of your expense accounts and
Mhm.
your income account. So income's probably easier because we don't have a whole bunch of different options there, right?
Right.
Like typically it's like your fee for service revenue, but then a lot of times I see practices putting everything into one bucket, for revenue, but you might have like quality reimbursement that you get for if you're part of an ACO or something like that, and you get
Mhm.
payments that are for that. Or maybe you have a medical directorship, and I would like to have those things broken out so that I know how much did we get in medical directorship revenue
Mhm.
this month, this year, that I
Yeah.
can track it over time. How much money did we get in, quality incentive money? How much did we
Mhm.
get in fee for service money? And that's the way you want to track that is
Sure.
um, through your chart, your expense account or your income accounts, right? So
Mhm.
they have three different income accounts, one that's fee for service, one that's quality payments, and then one that's medical directorships. And so
Mhm.
the same is true for expense accounts, right? You have, your employee expenses, which is like payroll and benefits and those kinds of things. And then you
Mhm.
have like rent and overhead and
Yeah.
um, all the bills that you pay, and they all get into different categories, and that
Mhm.
those categories help keep things clean so that when you're looking at expenses over time,
Mhm.
you're tracking things,
Yeah.
you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the
So, a couple of examples. Next year, we want to launch a new service. We'd like to know if it's how it's going.
Yeah.
Well, if the revenue from that new service is sort of mixed in with all the other ones, or some way that's really hard to find, you're never going to know the answer to that question. Or, we need to cut expenses over here, and that's going to be a thing we want to do next year. How's it going? Well, if the expenses are impossible to find, you're never going to know,
Yes,
you know?
right. And I've seen people make um, some weird things happen in their like accounting software where they're like tracking income by payer in like QuickBooks, if you will, or
Mhm.
whatever their
I was going to
accounting
actually
software
ask you
is.
if you think that's a good idea. Like,
No, I think
no?
that's a terrible idea.
Okay. This is why I don't do what you do.
Because,
Because my thinking was, well, if United Healthcare is one of the payers, wouldn't I want to have them be a separate income line so I can
well,
track? But I
you
guess
can
not.
run that information out of your practice management system.
Okay.
So if you're doing that in your QuickBooks, you're just duplicating a lot of work.
Fair enough.
And so really you're going to keep it simple on the
Hmm.
income side, because if you're going to drill down on your income, like by payer
Hmm.
or by location or anything like that, you're going to do it in your practice management system.
Mm.
And it's designed to do that. So
Hmm.
let it do the heavy lifting on that end.
Got
But
it.
on it, your practice management system doesn't track your expenses at all.
Hmm.
So you're going to do the heavy lifting on expenses in your
Hmm.
accounting system.
Okay.
So make your income easy to track
Yeah.
in QuickBooks or whichever system you use, and then get a little bit more specific on your expenses in QuickBooks, because that's the only place you have expenses.
Right. So if the practice management system says, at the end of the month, we collected X in revenue, add it all up, you can go look at QuickBooks and they need to tie up. And then
Yeah,
you're good.
there's sometimes like few things that can happen that make that a little bit hard, because
Timing.
sometimes payments like hit the
Sure.
bank before they hit the practice management system. But yes, you're going to be, you're going to know what
Yeah.
those items are. Yes.
Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
a little bit of a reconciliation there, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So how does an owner monitor their financials without needing, hours and hours of time or a PhD in finance or accounting? How?
That's
Like
a
what's
great,
the sweet spot,
yeah. So you want to look at them regularly,
Mm-hmm.
number one,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The newest client that I had, um, just recently taken on, they, um, had opened a new, facility, and they had not looked at their P&L since they opened. And,
How much time
um,
had passed?
uh, 8 months,
Wow.
and they were in trouble and they didn't even know it. Because they had taken on some loans to help with the startup,
Yeah.
and they hadn't gotten claims out the door yet. They had a bunch of claims, but they just hadn't gotten them out the door yet. So there was no income.
Hmm.
I kept running the P&L waiting to see the P, and there was no P. It was
The
just all
prop.
L. And I was like, well, I haven't seen this one before.
Yeah.
And now we got all the claims out. They're doing great.
Is this why they brought you in?
It's a
Somebody
success
noticed.
story. Yes, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was having heartburn because it's like, oh my gosh, we've blown through a bunch of cash. Nobody's looked at any of these statements. So number one, you got to look at them.
Yeah.
Number two is that I need to compare them to something. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to compare over time. So I
Mm-hmm.
like to have a chart that shows me every month of the year.
Yep.
And then I also like to compare this month to this month last year,
Yep.
because there can be seasonality
Yep.
in our business. And
Yep.
so sometimes comparing, month over month is one thing, but comparing this month to this month last year is good too. So,
Sure.
and then, there's a whole bunch of different things that you can look at, but those are like the basics.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go down and you look at all of your expense categories, and you can see the ones that have gone, way up or gone down. And you just want to be able to understand why.
Yeah. It could be a perfectly reasonable reason, but you just,
Yes. And
understand it.
often in medical businesses, we practice cash accounting,
Hmm.
cash basis accounting. So timing is a thing. So if
Mm-hmm.
you pay, so you recognize your expenses when you pay them,
Mm-hmm.
not when they're due. So
Mm-hmm.
in accrual-based accounting, like if your rent is due on the first,
Mm-hmm.
you book it on the first, whether you've
Right.
paid it on the first or not.
Right.
So you could have paid it on the 31st, like the day
Mm-hmm.
before, but you'd still book it on the first.
Right.
But in cash basis accounting, if you paid it on the 31st, it's going to fall in the month before.
Yeah.
And so that
Cash is
makes
so much
your
simpler. Like the accrual I get, it makes sense. But the cash
from
base
a
is just
from accounting like doing the
right.
actual
The
accounting, it's
accountant's like
definitely
correct, yes. But
but can cause ups and downs
yes.
in your statements. And so that happens a lot of times. It's just a timing thing, but you just need to understand why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, did we double pay this month? Or why is there no payment here for this month?
Right.
You want to know why.
Or the insurance
And then
company is
if
late with
there's
the reimbursement, whatever. Just there's
yeah,
just know
right.
it.
Like
Yeah.
what are the why is it changed?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the pitfalls that I have seen so many medical practices fall into is that they'll because you often put a percentage change too.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're looking at this month compared to this month last year, you can make a percent like what the percentage change is, right?
Right.
So you might have like a 600% change, but it was on postage and it went from like $2 to $602, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we can spend 30 minutes of a board meeting talking about that $600. And it's like, you can't let that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that $600 is not going to make or break
Yeah.
anybody. So
Yeah.
try not to
Right. Our
like
costs
take that
doubled.
bait.
Oh my God. It went from $1 to $2. Why don't we move
Right.
on? Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't take that bait. You gotta look at the big numbers and worry
Mm-hmm.
about those.
And look at the data. Yeah. And, it just strikes me that after you do this a few times, you get into the groove, it's like learning anything new, and if you have questions about things, then you ask the question, but you have to know what to ask. You have to know what you're looking at,
Yeah.
you know?
And don't be afraid to like ask stupid questions. Like, if you're a physician and you're looking at financial documents, don't be like there's no reason why you should know this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when I look at lab results, I'm like, well, this one's red, so I think that's bad,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's all I know.
Right.
And
Yeah. Look at me.
I
I'm a
don't
doctor.
know,
No, you're not a doctor.
right? But I
Right.
mean, half the time when it's red, they're like, yeah, but it's not that bad. Like the physicians are like, yeah, but that's not,
Is it
it's not
light
really that
red or
bad.
dark red or
Yeah.
right?
And so you can't be afraid or feel like you're, gonna, be ask a stupid question or whatever. Just, ask and
Hmm.
don't be afraid to sound stupid because probably you're not the only one in the room wondering that same thing.
Right.
And so just be willing to ask the question and
Yep.
understand it. And then the more it's like anything, you put in the reps and you get more
Hmm.
comfortable.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
the more you look at those numbers, the more you'll feel more comfortable.
Right. And as the owner, whether it's you alone or with partners, this is your money. It's your
Yes.
money.
Yes.
You need to take more of an interest than anybody else. This is not the kind of thing I'd say, that's my practice manager. I get, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, I have
It's,
seen wild stuff.
yeah. What's some stories?
Well, I mean, just like with this new client that I had, I was trying to figure out their EMR didn't appear. I couldn't figure out how it was getting paid. And I had reached out to that, I was getting invoices and they looked like they were paid, but there was other places it looked like it wasn't getting paid. So I'd reached out and said, hey, like, are we paying? Like what
Hmm.
account is it? And they said, yeah, you're paying. And I'm like, well, what account is it coming? It's auto drafted. They told me and it's coming out of this account. And I was like, I don't know where that account is. Like,
Hmm.
this is so weird, but they told me it was paid. So I kind of set it to the side because we had a bunch of other fires that were brewing.
Hmm.
And then last week, I was on vacation and I get an email saying they're going to shut the EMR down in like 2 days because we owed $86,000. because we'd never paid a single invoice for this
You mean to
EMR
like for the
system.
EMR system itself?
Yes, like it's, they hadn't paid one invoice, and I'm amazed that they made it that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily, now that cash flow is happening, we were able to pay it. But it's like, um,
Damn.
that's the kind of thing that like the financials were, well, we hadn't even paid it once. So that's why I wasn't missing it on the financial statements, but you know,
It's a total ghost.
yeah, like it had never showed up at even one time. But that's the
Wow.
kind of stuff that you'll notice is missing, like why haven't we paid this bill?
Hmm.
And that's the kind of thing that can go unchecked.
So you couldn't even look for
Um,
like a lapsed payment. Like here's three payments and then there were two missing and then it picked. Wow. So that's,
and that
yeah.
can be a indication that there might be a problem with whoever's doing accounts payable too. Like,
Yeah.
are they not doing, they need to be paying bills, probably once a week or
Yeah.
every 2 weeks at least. And
Yeah.
sometimes people, if you're in a small office and it's the office manager and they get, pulled in a million different ways, then it can be hard. Like paying bills can get, you know, fall down on the
Yeah.
to-do list.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're behind and you might be getting late notices or late fees, and you're not even aware that any of that is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Paying bills, another brain smoothing activity, but it's got to get done. It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
and most medical providers aren't the ones paying the bills, and
Hmm.
so they don't even see them.
I know it's strange. I
So
totally get the,
you
yeah, I know. I
you
know.
gotta be paying attention to that stuff because there's symptoms
Hmm.
of it not being smooth.
Yeah. Any other crazy stories? Just to call attention to this?
I mean, I don't know, the not reconciling your bank account for 11 months
That's a
was
pretty good one.
I
That's a
was
pretty
like,
good
oh
one.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm curious in that one, I don't even know if this is an answerable question. What was the gap between what they thought they had in that account versus what they actually had in that account once they actually reconciled it?
oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been several years, um, but yes, I think that's like, I think that many physicians think that they can look at their balance in the bank and
Hmm.
say, that's how much money we have.
Hmm.
But there can be, outstanding checks and, all kinds of stuff that you're not aware are hanging
Or,
out
or,
there.
or they think, and that's available for us to use however we want. Time out, my friend. In 5 days, you're making another loan payment.
Right.
Or,
Or payroll
or
is coming.
payroll. Like you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, that's not available to you. That's just what's there
No,
in the
it's
moment
what's
you
there at the
looked at it.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like, I mean, I don't discourage you from checking your bank balance. Like but that's not the only measure
It's not
of
really a
financial
measure at
health.
all. No,
No,
it's not.
it's
And it gets
not.
back to, probably to go back to monitoring it without getting buried alive. Maybe you should know, like on the 15th of every month, we run payroll and it's approximately X.
Yes,
And at the end of the month,
absolutely.
we make our lease payment. It's approximately Y. And just
Yeah.
maybe like the top two or three biggies. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
just,
because right there you've covered, like for most medical practices, people are our biggest expense.
yeah,
So payroll and benefits, like all combined, that's our
the whole
probably
thing.
biggest expense. And then
Yep.
after that, it's gonna be rent. So
Yep.
you should know what those cost you every month
Hmm.
and like when they
When they
happen, for
do,
sure.
so that you could look at, your balance a few days before and go, we got it. Yeah. Yeah. That
Exactly.
would make sense. That would make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Anything you think we've missed on this? We've covered a lot of ground, I think. Like we
No,
said,
I
this could
just
be a
think
whole
that,
series of
yeah,
episodes,
I
but we're
could. I
trying
mean, you
to.
can get really, there's clearly lots of ways that you can slice and dice
Hmm.
financials to do
Hmm.
financial analysis. But I think that um, you don't have to get crazy with it.
Yeah.
You just have to be aware and you have to be routine about it. You
Hmm.
have to look at them
Hmm.
regularly. It has to be a ritual,
Hmm.
like, every month we sit down and we are
Hmm.
intentional and we look at the financials together
Hmm.
and we talk about it and we point out areas that we feel like could be improved
Hmm.
and we look for ways to make it better. It's not like, throwing stones. It's just like what's going on. Like
Hmm.
it's part of your, we talked about dashboard and looking at
Yeah.
productivity and stuff like
Yeah.
that. This is kind of the other side of that coin.
Hmm.
Because this is like, the productivity dashboards are how you bring the money in,
Hmm.
and the financial dashboard is how the money's going out.
And how it's
And so,
managed, right? Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so, kind of understanding that, and you can, then people get into like budgeting and stuff like that, and I'm not as big of a proponent of budgets in medical practices because it's like, well, so, we've hit our budget on medical supplies. So what are we going to do? Like stop buying tongue
Yeah.
depressors? Like that
Yeah.
just doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You have to get what you have to get. You can have some forecasts if you want to
It
kind of
seems to
know
me
what
like
to
a P&L
expect.
that's working for you. It's not a budget, but it's kind of sort of a
It's a
proxy, kind of sort
It's
of.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
approximation of what you'll probably spend on a
Yeah.
monthly basis. So,
Yeah.
and you can kind of forecast that,
Hmm.
but a budget implies you're going to stick to it if you're,
Right. Or
right.
something's off if you went over or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know that you can, say, oh well, we're over budget. Somebody's losing their job today.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's
Right.
not going to work like that.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, I think that just, having, looking at them on a regular basis, trying to make sure you have a good chart of accounts in
Hmm.
place, making sure that you kind of understand what's in each of those chart of accounts. Like,
Yeah.
if you need to dig in and understand like, well, what all goes into medical supplies? What all
Hmm.
goes into
Hmm.
these categories? Um,
By the way, I just thought of this, like another reason to have good financials that you understand that are clean is because it's sad to say there's more fraud and theft than I would like to acknowledge out there. And if you want to make it easier for people to steal from you, have messy financials because it's just more
yeah.
places to bury the, it's harder to find,
Yeah.
when it's a mess in there.
Absolutely. And I have been fortunate that I've never like uncovered fraud,
Hmm.
but what I have uncovered, I feel like is just like gross mismanagement.
Okay. Yeah.
In some ways that's like theft because
Hmm.
the money's not being handled right, and that
Hmm.
you're paying that price for that.
Hmm.
So I think that, have that's a really good reason to have clean financials, is so that you know that your bills are getting paid, and that,
Hmm.
you're not paying a bunch of late fees, and that you're not, getting
Hmm.
threatened but to have your EMR get turned off and you don't
Right.
even know it,
Right.
that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. After
Yeah,
8 months of very
non-payment.
generous extensions. Um,
Yeah.
the other question I asked to wrap up is where can somebody get started if, we've caught their attention? And I was going to mention, I don't know if I was going to say dashboard, but, make these things work for you, right? If a P&L is structured that you're like, it doesn't help me, then you could create an additional dashboard. You can pull the data out that you want. You don't have to necessarily take a big fat long report and find, and just go sifting through. You can do this, but make these things work for you because it's your money. It's your money,
Yes.
it's your practice, it's your credit, it's your reputation. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Make them work for you.
Yeah, and like if you're like, I don't know if I have a good chart of accounts or not. Well, look at your P&L,
Hmm.
or your income statement. Those are the same thing.
Hmm.
And if your P&L doesn't have numbers associated with each account,
Yeah.
or if it's just like an alphabetical order, then you probably need a new chart of accounts.
Hmm.
And so start researching that now and get it teed up and ready for
Hmm.
January.
Yep.
And then understand that in January, like talk to your accountant about it, because they're gonna be a little like, oh no, because now when they do your taxes, it's harder for them to compare year to over year, which
Yeah.
will understand.
Yeah.
They'll get on board with it. But
Yeah.
and then when you have a pretty chart of accounts, then comparing year over year becomes easier for everybody.
Is it an overstep to say that if you've got just this terribly messy chart of accounts, is it wrong to say, hey, accountant, where you been?
No,
Like,
I often think that too. Like,
I mean, they're not the owner, right? So
right.
they're an advisor, and I always want to, say, look, that because maybe the accountant said we've tried, but
Yeah, I find
like, what's
that
the
maybe.
opposition if a practice has no numbers and it's a mess, and the accountant said, look, we really need to clean this up. what would the opposition to be? Why would a practice say, nope, leave it the way it is? I guess
I don't think that it happens like that very often. I think that the accountants tend to be focused on getting your taxes done
yeah,
and less on running your business.
yeah,
And so I just don't think that they rock the boat.
yeah,
I think that we have like an accounting shortage on our
it's
hands in
true.
this country, and so they're not looking for extra work.
Yeah.
So I think that unless you're asking,
Hmm.
like, do I have a good chart of accounts?
Right.
They're not gonna delve into that.
Yeah.
They kind of go
Yeah.
for the path of least resistance, and or you have to, find an accountant that's gonna kind of, be a good advisor for you too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we both know some out there. So
Yeah,
happy to give a
absolutely.
recommendation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks for coming back on. This is your
Absolutely. It's
third or
always
fourth or
fun.
fifth time. Yeah. Good conversations, interesting business stuff.
Yes,
So thanks for coming back on.
absolutely. Have a great rest of your summer.
Thanks you as well. And we've got your contact info. We're going to get it into the show notes for this episode. Two quick points before we wrap up. First, please subscribe to Practice Care if you haven't done it already. Practice Care is one word, easy to find. We're everywhere. Just subscribe. New episode every week, and that's the easiest way to catch them. And then secondly, if you're like Katie or us and you serve private practice owners or you're a private practice owner yourself, either way, you've got some experience on the business side of private practice that you think other owners would benefit from. And don't overthink that. All experience is good experience. We want you to come on Practice Care and share your knowledge. In the show notes of every episode we've got, almost 200 of them, there's a link. Couple of questions, take you a minute. Just tell us what's on your mind and we'll get you scheduled as soon as possible. Thanks very much. And until next time.